We know that the interval of a fourth and the interval of a fifth come in three different flavors, or what we call in music theory, three different qualities: the perfect, the augmented, and the diminished. It turns out that all of the perfect intervals have the same property. They all have three different varieties: the perfect, the augmented, and the diminished. And remember, the perfect intervals are the unison, the fourth, the fifth, and the octave. So the fourth and the fifth are just a subset of the perfect intervals. Now, we know a lot about the fourth and the fifth. We've had a lot of practice with the fourth and the fifth. So I want to create a little chart just to sort of give us a sense of the intervals and their half steps. So the first thing we know is we know that a perfect fourth is a fourth that has 5 half steps. I'm going to write a 5 right here at the intersection of the P and the 4. We also know that a perfect fifth is a fifth that has 7 half steps. So I'm going to write a 7 right here at the intersection of P and 5. We also know that there are 2 other varieties of the fourth and the fifth. There is the diminished quality, and the diminished quality always has 1 less half step than the perfect. So if a perfect fourth has 5 half steps, a diminished fourth is going to have 4 half steps. If a perfect fifth has 7 half steps, a diminished fifth is going to have 6 half steps. Just like the diminished is always 1 less than the perfect, the augmented version is going to be 1 more. So we know that if a perfect fourth has 5 half steps, an augmented fourth is going to have 6 half steps. If a perfect fifth has 7 half steps, we know that an augmented fifth is going to have 8 half steps. So let's use this same pattern to figure out the intervals and the half steps of the unison and the octave. Let's start with the octave. So an octave has 12 half steps. And don't just take my word for it. If you go to the keyboard and you go up a chromatic scale from C to C, you'll come up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 half steps. So we know that if a perfect octave has 12 half steps, a diminished octave has to have 1 half step less than that. So a diminished octave is only going to have 11 half steps. And then an augmented octave is going to have 1 half step more than 12. It's going to have 13. So an augmented octave is going to be 13 half steps. Let's go to the unison. We know that a perfect unison is going to have, well, how many half steps is it going to have? We said that a unison, when we're talking about the diatonic interval, if we count from, say, a C to a C, we know that a unison, by definition, is the interval of 1. But remember, when we're counting half steps, we start counting on 0. So we're traveling 0 half steps if we go from C to C. So a perfect unison is actually 0 half steps. An augmented unison is going to be 1 more than that, which is 1 half step. And then, and this is kind of theoretical because we don't really see this in real life, but I'll put it here just for the sake of completion. A diminished unison would be 1 less than the perfect unison, which in theory would be -1 half steps. Again, that's I put that there just for the purpose of having a complete chart, but rarely do we actually see the diminished unison as an interval in practice. So in the next video, let's use this little chart that we've created to actually figure out and create some perfect intervals in all of their qualities.